Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi everyone, welcome to Season 4, Episode 26 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today I am chatting with author Michelle Major. Welcome, Michelle, to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to chat with you, talk about all your books and all your stuff. So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing, and how you got started.
Great. I would love to. And so this is, I'm terrible with dates because I feel like those are math. And as an author, I know that's a crutch, but I'm bad with math, but I know the year is 2023. So this is actually my 10-year anniversary of being published. My first book came out in February of 2013, and which was pretty exciting. It's even more exciting now, 55 books later. And I came to writing. I'd always been a reader. I'd always loved to write, but it wasn't until I developed this huge fear of flying and I had to fly for my corporate job. And I picked up a romance novel in an airport bookstore in Denver. And it was one of the early Bridgertons. And it totally captivated me. And I forgot to be anxious or afraid or notice the turbulence going over the mountains. And I also thought, oh my gosh, these are the stories in my head. This is what I want to do. This is my dream career. And I was 30 at the time and I thought I had a career, but pivot. And so, it took a little while and a lot of rejections, but here I am and I'm super excited about it.
Well, congratulations on 10 years and 55 books. Wow, that's a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sometimes that we always devour the books usually when an author publishes it and that we love it, and also one that we've been waiting for, which seems to we're always waiting for that one book, but we devour them so quickly. And sometimes, there's a lot that goes into writing it, and sometimes we forget that. So because we devour and we're like, so hey, Michelle, when's the next one coming out? And you're like, I just finished this one.
Yes, well, I'm a reader too, so I do the same thing with, some of my favorite authors, or I know I've had readers contact me, who have asked, can you tell me when the last book in the series is going to come out? Because they actually don't like to start reading a series until they know they can devour the whole thing, because they don't want to have to wait, which I think is a really interesting way to read.
Yeah, it is. Usually that question for me becomes if it's like a bit of a cliffhanger-ish or like a serial where it's a trilogy, and so all three books go over the arc to find that happily ever after of sorts. Yes. That's kind of like where I want to know. When it comes out to bigger series or things, I will admit, if I start a new book series or a new author to me and the series ends up having like 20 books, I get a little scared.
Right. It's a big commitment, right?
Yes, thank you. It is such a huge commitment. And also you're going, this could either take a very little time.
Right.
Or it's going to take me a while.
It's the same with, I feel like it's, parallel to watching a show. And yes. Now we're so used to, very quickly have become used to like the Netflix way of, dropping a whole season. And so you just feel like you need to binge. And my husband and I were watching something on Apple TV. I can't even remember what it was, but we were like, oh, wait, we have to wait a week for like the old days. Right. So it's the same with books.
Yeah, I think of this from a streaming perspective. A lot of the people are learning that we will subscribe for a trial for free. Yeah. And binge on a series and finish it in 2 days. Where now that's why they're dropping them like the good old days when we have to wait a week. Yes. And it is a bit frustrating. But at the same time, I personally am like, I have something to look forward to. I can't wait. So it's one of those.
Well, and from an author standpoint, I love it because I feel like through the books, I've gotten to know either on social media or behind the scenes or meeting readers in person at a conference. You know, I I like having the books or a series spread out a little bit because I feel like, you do get to know the characters, and then there is that exciting anticipation, and I get to know the readers and what they like, and oh, is this person going to get a story, and it might spur an idea in my head as well. So
Oh yeah, we do love that one character that popped into that one scene, perhaps, but for whatever reason or however, made an impact. And we're going back to the author saying, "So, are they getting a book?"
yes, exactly.
And oh my God, sometimes the author's like, "Well, yes," and other times they're like, "No,
Right?
who are you
Wait, what
talking about?"
character? Who?
Yeah,
That person didn't
yeah.
make an impression on me. Yes, I have had that happen before too.
Mhm.
But it does, when you get that feedback, it helps you revisit and go, oh, okay, well, maybe, put a little post-it note in my brain, and maybe I will circle back to that character.
Yeah, I had one author bust out one time with who? I'm like, it's a book. What do you mean who? He go in there like, there's a lot of characters in my head. And I had to explain, and they're like, "Oh, them. What? Why?" So yeah, it was. I love it but being able to talk to the authors, I think it's one of the really best things that has happened and have come out of social media. Is being able
Yes.
to, if when the authors are open to having those dialogues with their readers and busting out with "girl."
Right. For
Yeah.
sure. And I think from an author standpoint, I mean, I know I love it because, especially since the pandemic, it's already a solitary career, but it's become even more so because you're not, pre times. I used to go to Panera or a coffee shop and meet up with writer friends. And we've just gotten out of the habit of doing that. And it feels, hard to get back in the habit. So connecting with readers via social media and just, knowing there are people out there that appreciate this thing that you're kind of, doing all in your head and in your pajamas, and you haven't brushed your teeth for 3 days. It means a lot.
Michelle, that's a sexy visual there, girl.
Bringing the romance to the
Yeah,
table.
right. In that visual of that's exactly when that sex scene needs to be written. But you write contemporary romance, and I love this on your bio for your website. It says, with a focus on humor, with a focus on hope, humor, and a place to call home. And that you especially love the butterflies in the stomach feeling. What made you decide to write like that for that?
I think it goes back to what I love to read. And I certainly, I read at all heat levels, and I like a good steamy sex scene when it's done well. And, maybe that's why historical romance is still my favorite thing to read, because there are a lot of authors who do those scenes very well. But I think it's that the butterflies in your stomach, that anticipation, and I think most people can remember, the first time they fell in love or the fifth time they fell in love. And it's, that sort of, oh my gosh, I'm not tired, even though we stayed up all night talking and doing whatever. And, so I love to tap into that. And I also feel like real life is real life, and we get a lot of it, but a lot of people deal with really difficult things in their real life. And I think I put an element of, realistic troubles. I like to, pile on to my characters so they have a lot to get over and to journey through. But I think the hope is very important, because when you pick up a romance book, there's that promise of the story, and real life can be a downer. So it's nice to to read something where people are dealing with struggles and you see them get over it. I think it gives a little bit of optimism to readers.
And with romance, I just kind of had that aha situation where I'm like, I never thought of it that way before, Vivi. With romance, we know that we're getting an HEA because that's what's supposed to romance be all about. And so we understand that at the end of the book and end of that journey, they're going to be a happily ever after. We know that the excitement and the fun for readers comes into how they get there. And that's actually really the only time in our lives that we know for a fact where it's going to end. Because in our real life, day-to-day stuff, we have no clue, right? We hope for a great day. We hope that it's going to be a good day for fun and XYZs. And even, you know, if you have that moment, because corporate world, that by the time you get home, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know how your day's going to end because there's so many variables. But when you're reading that story, you know it's going to be a happily ever after.
Yes. And in that way, I think, you know, as an author, I feel like I'm willing to put my characters through more because I do know I'm leading to that. And then I hope readers will go along on that journey because, again, they know at the end they're going to get that satisfying ending that hopefully, you know, leaves them with a little tear in their eye and a warm heart and all of those things. So,
So when you're writing your stories, are you sitting at your desk typing or on the bed in your PJs, as you gave us that visual before? And you're writing that scene where you're putting your characters through whatever the hell form that it is for them at that moment in time. I kind of have this visual of the character just looking at you like saying, really, woman? Really? And
again,
you going
more?
right, and but then you also having a little bit of a smirk and going for
sure. And I do, you know, I enjoy that. And as you mentioned, I do try to, I mean, I like to laugh. I have a pretty sarcastic sense of humor. So I think a lot of my female characters in particular, you know, there's a lot of banter and back and forth. And I think that's some of my sensibility in there. So it, you know, it can lighten things up a little bit, even when it is really heavy. But for sure, when I'm crafting a story, I start with character and I really try to get to know them and what makes them tick and, you know, where their issue is. And then, you know, when I'm crafting a couple, it's like, okay, why are they perfect for each other? But why can't they be together? And how is this going to sustain the conflict over the story? And I love that sort of psychological part of getting into, well, I mean, really, I'm only in my own head because they're all in my head, but it feels like I'm creating somebody new.
That is true. It's a lot of authors have said that the characters speak to them, or some of them get louder, even though it's not their book. And then when it is their book, they're all of a sudden silent. And it's like, really, fucker? Seriously?
Right? Yeah. I've had a lot of like scene stealers where I'm like, no, you pipe down over there. Like you know, but I do think for secondary characters, you know, you can give them some of the good lines and the funny bits, and that's what they're there for. So I think that's why readers, you know, will fall in love with a secondary character because, you know, they're getting to do all the fun stuff.
Right. And then we fall in love, and then we email you or send you a note on social saying, so. And you're
Exactly.
like, stop.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm getting there.
Yeah. So where do you get your ideas for your stories? Or you were talking about characters kind of being the first thing that you think about. So how does all that, you know, commercials, people, how does that come about?
You know, a little bit of everything. I think a lot of writers, and I certainly consider myself in this category, we're observers. So, you know, even if I'm in a store or the TSA line at the airport, I'm listening. You know, I'm eavesdropping on conversations. I'm listening to, you know, I'm watching people's movements. I think, you know, if I hear a headline of something, one of my books, the first one set in Magnolia, North Carolina, the Magnolia Sisters, was inspired by, a sort of Ancestry 23andMe story that actually happened to one of my mom's best friends, where, she found out when like somebody had gifted this to her for Christmas, and she came back and realized that, you know, based on the DNA, the man she thought was her father was not her father. And, I think you read about those stories, but it just felt very personal. I mean, this was somebody I'd known my whole life. And so that sort of got me thinking. And then I came up with this idea of, yeah, what if, these sisters came together and they all had this connection that they didn't realize. So it's from all over, little snippets of the news and, real life and made up life. But then as soon as you kind of, for me, I get the kernel of an idea, then I, sort of go on walks and get in my head and see what I can come up with from there.
And you kind of have to worry about when you go to places like, all right, is this an author watching what I'm doing? Yeah. But I mean, it's really true. Hearing these conversations, I mean, we do it all the time as just people. Going to Starbucks can get very interesting sometimes, and getting all this stuff, I can only imagine what it's like in your head when you're, hearing some of these things and you're going, well, that would make a good story. I wonder where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Or in your case, it's going to go a lot better in my book, though, than it's going for you.
It is. And that's the fun thing, too. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this piece that I've heard, but I'm going to make it a lot sexier and fun. And I write a lot of small town romance because I love the community aspect and the big cast of characters. So, of course, you need to put in, a festival or two and a cute little diner and just, kind of build the world around that.
Yeah, I think romance books and then the Gilmore Girls totally cemented my wanting to live in a small town with, where you have everyone kind of knowing who everybody is and realizing, hey, there's a new neighbor that bought that old house. And then you're going, dun, 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 what will happen next? But it's always fun, those small towns.
Well, and if every small town could be modeled off of, Stars Hollow from the Gilmore Girls, I think that would be fine with the big town square and, a diner with endless cups of coffee and great pancakes, and let's go. I'm ready.
I know. It's like, where is that? I think I did Google it. Because sometimes you guys, base locations in your books and stories and TVs and stuff based off of real locations across the country. And I think they said it was somewhere up north, like in Connecticut or something like that, but they took pieces and other things and recreated it. So I'm like, man, I'm just gonna go into a Michelle book and live in there then.
There you go. There you go. And I will tell you, in a Michelle book, everybody brushes their teeth on the regular, so you're good.
Thank you. I had no doubt that that's what's going to happen, but thank you for confirming. Because you write in the contemporary romance, and romance is such an umbrella term with all these subgenres. Paranormal, you mentioned historical, thriller, romantic suspense. I mean, you name it, it's under there nowadays, not including tropes, because that's a different conversation. Has there ever been a subgenre in romance that you're going, I would love to write in that?
I thought when I started that I was going to be a historical romance author because that's what I love to read. But I found that even contemporary romance, there's a lot of research that goes into it, both setting and world building and careers and those details. But the details that historical authors do is unbelievable. And I think it's the same with romantic suspense, where you have this, or if you have a mystery element or a thriller element in there, you have to take that all the way through. So I am happy doing what I do for the moment, but I do, I have, again, it's like those slutty new ideas. I have a few in my head where I feel like, okay, I've kind of been on back-to-back deadlines, but when I get some, which I will have this summer, a little bit of breathing room, I might like to explore something different. But we'll stay tuned.
I mean, we could have a small town paranormal, right? Situation.
Yes, and I recently, just in my local neighborhood, was on the board of the homeowners association. And I thought, oh, I'd really like to do a domestic thriller, like a Big Little Lies type thing around an HOA, because there's so much sort of silly shenanigans that happen that don't in like the grand scheme of the world mean anything, but people get very invested in their when it affects them in their house.
Oh, yeah. Speaking with the girl who is currently about to throttle someone on their HOA for parking in front of the house when there's not enough parking space created for the house.
Right?
Yes. And I'm like, listen, it's okay. It's right in front of my house. It's not bothering anybody. It's not like it's parked there and it's just unseemly. But yeah, and I think they're probably holding my request for we have to redo the roof. And it seems like they're holding that permit a little bit like, so you need the roof redone. What about that parking? And I'm like, I'm gonna have one of my author friends write you and kill you off.
Exactly. That's what I feel like. I'm like, I know there is a lot to mine in I'm sure there's like a Reddit thread for bad HOA horror stories.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it used to be that they were not that common. Now everything is an HOA, which I mean, from a homeowner perspective, I don't want someone next to me that is doing mechanic work, right? And there's stuff like that. But there's also things that you're going, really? This is going to be the battle? Okay. I'm like, this doesn't happen in my romance books, and this is why I read romance. Okay, bye-bye.
Exactly. But that's why it would have to be, it couldn't be a romance. It would have to be like a thriller where you killed off the people who you didn't.
Yeah. Well, look, Viviana got a permanent really quickly, huh? No, for sure. When you're writing the characters and you're having everything writing down stuff like that, has there been a character that has really kind of like been very, I mean, it's not like picking a favorite because I would never ask you to do that, but one that stands out that, for whatever reason, that's more endearing to you. Let's say it that way.
I think I mean, not to play favorites, but of course, I always, whatever characters I'm working on at the time tend to be my favorite just because they're in my head. But that being said, I have a release coming in May called The Front Porch Club. And one of the main heroines of that book was sort of the villain character, and she had a very small role, like 5 books previous. But when she popped back up as somebody who was like, okay, I'm ready to be redeemed, I was like, no, sit down. You are, stay in your lane, girl. And, she just kept coming. So it was, I do feel like by the end, I really liked the character. Her name is Annalise, because it was like, even for me as a writer, I got to redeem a character that I had no plans to redeem when I first wrote her. And so, the sort of the process by which she kind of hit rock bottom and then had to come back up, and she's a mother and a single mother. And, I feel like she's going to hold a special place in my heart because she surprised me in a lot of ways.
Love when that happens.
Me too. Yeah. When it's a pleasant surprise, especially.
Well, that is true. I mean, can you imagine the opposite? You're loving the character in book one, and as it progressed, but then all of a sudden they're the bad guy, or there's no redeeming them, and you're going, really? I liked you.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you decide to have your titles in audio?
I am a big audiobook. I love listening to audiobooks, and the funny thing is, as an author and as a working author, I feel like I have so much less time to read because, even at night, if I'm writing the new words during the day, then at night it's editing. But I live in Colorado. I have dogs. I love to walk. I always have a story, an audiobook going. So it that had always been a dream of mine. And so when the publisher, said they were going to take this series and put it into audiobook, I was just thrilled because I felt like it would open these stories up to new readers discovering them, through listening.
Yeah, with everything that's been going on, audiobooks, I think, have definitely it's been on a trajectory upward for years, for the past maybe 6 years or so, but especially during the pandemic, because people were doing, I think, a little bit more of being on the outdoors because you don't have to people so much.
Right.
Right? Or because you were home, you're like, I gotta do this, and this. But I'm like, but I really want to read a book. And you're going,
Right.
ooh, audiobook. It definitely allows for multitasking to occur. Though I will say that there's been times while you're sitting in front of the Excel spreadsheets and you're not moving or typing, and either because it's a steamy scene or something, or suspenseful, or you're in the cubicle world and you start laughing all by yourself. And like,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Well, and I guested at I had a book club that read one of my books, and they were local, so I came and met with them when they discussed it, and a couple of them had listened to it, and it was interesting. There was a little girl character in the book, and the people who had read and I meant her to be sort of bratty at the start of it. That was for sure. I pictured her as someone sassy, but the people who had read the book didn't get that. Like they just thought she was kind of sweet. Whereas because of the way the narrator, the inflection of the voice, the people who listened to it were like, oh no, she was, she was extra. So I think that's fun. But one of the women had, like played a little bit because she listens to so many audiobooks, and she said, I listen to everything in 1.5 speed except a sex scene, and then I push that back to regular speed. So
well, see, 1.5 is not that fast. I think 1.5 is you can sometimes barely tell depending on the narration, because also if it's recorded fast, it's going to be a lot faster versus if a lot of times with traditional publishing, it goes a little bit slower and you're going, yes, let's go people, we got stuff to do. I personally don't like speeding it up any more than the 1.5 because they start something like chick months and that's just not sexy. And yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks are on my earbuds. No. And then at the same time, some of those inflections or that, especially that sarcasm can be missed because it's going so fast. Because sarcasm it could be anything. It could be a quick whip. It could be like, nah, really? And so when the narrators are performing it and that's a regular speed, you can kind of hear that a lot better than if you're Speedy Gonzalezing it. But I mean, slowing down for a sex scene, okay.
Right. I was like, yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough. I get it. I understand. I know people that fast forward through them as well. So it works either way, whatever is your comfort level. Yes.
Exactly.
But yeah, when narrators are on it though, and they're getting the characters, especially like little kids, and they pick up on what the author is saying as far as the characters, it's for me, it's like magical.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you find yourself kind of knowing now that your books will be in audio in one point or another? Do you find yourself kind of like writing a little bit more for audio? Because it's a little bit different.
It is a little bit different, but I don't, I have to say no, but at the same time, I don't write I might edit thinking about audio or how something is going to sound, or what a reader's going to think of it, or how that inflection goes. But when I'm really heads down writing, I really am only thinking of honoring the characters and the story and that. But yes, in when I go back through, I have several passes of editing, and a lot of times on one of them I will try to do my best to read most of it myself out loud, or different key scenes. So in that case, I do think I'm thinking about what it's going to sound like out loud if somebody's listening to it. Because that's another thing as a reader, when you listen to books, there are certain books where you're like, oh, okay, I think that would play okay as you're reading the lines, but when you hear it, I want it to sound very natural and conversational, and like you're just being swept away in the story as a listener.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of particular scenes, especially lately, because of lovely technology. A lot of authors have started adding like texting, even if it's just a brief one, conversation in the story, because now we're talking texting. And in the writing, with reading with your eyeballs, you need to know who the hell is texting whom, because I, as someone that can do multiple lines and always be on my side, it's important. But when you're hearing an audio, Melissa said, Ted said, Melissa said, it gets a little tedious. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest difference are the tags,
Yes.
like the she says and all that fun stuff. And, he growled, because that's a popular
Right.
one in romance, right? He growled.
Right. He growled. Yes.
Which I was going like,
I know. The deep, gravelly voice, which, can sound sexy, or it can sound like, you've got something caught in your throat.
Right.
So,
I'm like, do you need a cough drop?
right.
Yeah, I was going through your catalog to kind of look at your books as far as the narrators goes, and I'm seeing a common theme here in a particular name of, these are great narrators combination that you've had here, but the one that keeps popping up is Miss Carly Robbins, who is so cool and awesome, and I just love her. You have shared before that you actually get to provide the publisher with at least a list of of narrators that you would like. I'm assuming that you really like Carly.
I do really like Carly, and I think she's done, a great job on the 2 series she's worked on of mine, which are connected. And I really, every time, I'm asked now, especially in that world of Magnolia, I want it to be Carly, because I think, she's established, and I have several, I know a lot of readers who listen to everyone, and I think she does a great job with, her voices, and I think she really gets my voice. And so, where she puts in the humor is where I see the humor, but also that consistency. I love, because it is a world where it's a small community. So you may have a character from book 1 or 2 who does show up again in book 7 or 8, as a minor character. And I think I love to revisit those people and kind of get a glimpse into what's going on in their life now. But the great thing about Carly is I know, she knows them. So she's gonna capture that voice again.
Yeah, she's been a guest before, and it was a funny moment that stands out for me is because she narrates under Carly, and she also has a pseudonym. And no, even though she's open, I'm not going to tell y'all, so drop it. But she said that she shared that it's been interesting because so she knows, sometimes you read your reviews or you see it on social media. Someone would say, hey, I love Carly's voice. And then someone would turn around and say, but I don't really like the other, not knowing they're one and the same. And I'm going, well, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
She finds it hilarious. And I'm like, well, it's almost like that internal secret of like, haha, if only you knew.
Right.
But yeah, no, she's fantastic. She's actually going to be with you at Readers Take Denver for the convention that's going on March 30th through April 2nd. What is it about conventions that you love?
Well, first, let me say I am so excited about this. And I am very excited that Carly's going to be there because I haven't met her in person. I mean, I would have, no reason to, but now I do, and I can't wait. And I think reader conferences are just to me, they give me so much energy and like recharge the well. And I love talking to people. I love, um, you know, I mean, people who read my books with people who read other books. I think, you know, the reading community and how passionate people feel about the authors they love and about the books they love. It's, it's very special. And I think I've missed it. I used to do more. This is the first really big one I've done since, before times. And I just can't wait to talk to people and to see authors and to, just be in person with people, because I think the reading community and the writing community, we use social media very well because a lot of us, I consider myself a extroverted introvert. I love to talk to people, but sometimes big ballrooms or big situations can give me a little bit of anxiety. But I feel like that's another great thing about getting together with other readers and authors is I know I'm not alone. So just, you can always find somebody to connect with.
Absolutely. It's I love it when I see, because you can kind of see it happen, and it's almost like that romance moment where the hero has finally realized he was being a dork, um and she realizes that all she had to do was just ask him instead of assuming, but they're reuniting and they're like, oh, seeing friends that have been friends online for years but never met in real life is just like poof, that moment. I'm like, that is too cute.
It is.
Or having the fans connect with the author for the first time. There's been so many, from hysterical laughter in good terms, like in almost like they were sharing a secret that none of us are privy to crying because it's meant that their stories have meant so much to the reader, and then sharing it with the author.
Right. Well, and I had a situation, it was a signing a few years ago where I had a woman who, I didn't know, came up and she just told me that she had had just this health crisis, and she happened to pick up one of my books at the start of it. And, she went into pretty good detail about, the different stages she had and, what book of mine she was reading at the time. And wow, talk about a humbling experience. I think I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, I've had that experience as a reader, but to be on the other side of it and to know as an author, even if it's one person that you touched, like that is what the whole thing is about. So
yeah, and there's going to be a multiple, there's like two for sure, I know three now, book signing opportunities with you guys being on panels, and as well as some of the we have a bunch of social events and gatherings, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the readers to sign your book.
yes, I can't wait, and I can't wait to talk. I mean, I try to be respectful of people's personal boundaries. I am a hugger, so like free hugs available right here. But yes, and I will, be love and honored to sign any books. So
yeah, I mean, people will be bringing books and Kindle covers and device covers and pillows and all sorts of goodies to get signed. And there's even a booklet that I know the event is going to be announcing soon to sell that will have all your names on there, and people almost like those like Disney autograph books.
Oh yeah, yes, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And there have been I know I think the great thing about conferences too is a reader can go knowing a few authors or having read or being big fans. But I think, I've done this with authors where,
Mhm.
I meet them and I'm like, oh, I really like this person. And so now I'm going to check out their books
Oh yeah.
because, so I think that is another, because gosh, we're inundated with so many books and so many, options for things. And you do, a lot of people have limited time. So for me, if I meet somebody and I'm like, oh, they were funny. Oh, I liked them. Okay, now I'm going to go pick up, you know, what they write because I feel like if their personality comes through at all on the page, this is going to be a good one for me.
Oh yeah, that's been many a times where I've been sitting at a panel and I'm listening and the author's personality comes out and they share something about the story that they're in one of their books and I'm going making notes like my book.
Right.
Yeah. Or having the conversations at the book signing when you're walking by and the cover catches your attention, or there's something like swag, because swag can be creative and rather interesting sometimes. And you strike up that conversation. There's been plenty of books that are sitting on my shelf on my to be read second pile of lists, and but I've bought them because of supporting the author, but because I had that conversation with them at the book signing. When and where I'll get to those books, I don't know. That list is never ending and keeps growing, but I supported the author by buying the book.
Yes, yes, I have done the same thing as a
Mhm.
reader.
Yeah, same. So we can't wait to see you in person at that event, and the tickets are still available. So if you guys are listening to this and you have not purchased your ticket, do so quickly. I think that they're starting to get to that point where they're going to be selling out soon.
Yes, please do. And I mean, I am originally from Ohio, but I have lived in Colorado for 3 decades. I worked on the 16th Street Mall in downtown Denver, which is, very close to where the the conference hotel is and the events. And Denver is a fun city. There are so many panels and events and opportunities um, to meet authors and other readers at Readers Take Denver. I mean, I think it's going to be just such a fabulous weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to need a vacation afterwards just to recover. Well, I wonder if you guys, as authors, sometimes when you go to these things, you give yourself some buffer time of not only peopling, but having to be on so much that you just need a couple of days to recoup as an intern,
Well, and I do think the idea of a conference hangover is real. I don't know if it's like, I mean, I think it's a little, it is being very social and on, but it's also you're on such a emotional and, writerly high when you're at these conferences because there's the energy, and then you just kind of come back to real life, and it's like coming home from vacation where you're like, oh, okay, I'm back.
the
So
reality. I'm like, where's the adoration? Where's all the shears and the loving? I gotta do
where's
laundry.
the fun and the dancing and the laughing, and oh
Yeah.
my god, I just need to scoop the dog's poop and empty the dishwasher.
Right? Oh, goodness. I feel you. I totally feel you. One of the things I love about having these conversations with you guys, as as well as getting to know you better, your personalities are coming out, but also you kind of start wondering how creative you guys are truly. I mean, you write these stories that have some of them are like so out there, and then sometimes they're so close to being reality that you're going, are you following me? And one of the things I love is the two truths and a lie, where you tell us three things about yourself, and we need to figure out which one's the lie. If you're ready.
I am ready.
All right. So what are your
So
three things?
my three things are that first, I am definitely a night owl and I have trouble even winding down and going to bed before midnight. My second is that I was almost killed by a famous rock star. And my third is that I love doing laundry.
Okay, I have to ask the whole laundry thing. You love doing laundry. I'm wondering if that if it is true, which we'll figure this out in a second, if you also the part, is it just the putting things on the machine or actually folding and putting them away? Because that's always a like, okay, it's easy to do the laundry, stick in the machine, but putting it away, oh, that takes time. Almost killed by a rock star, night owl, specifically after for midnight, and then loving laundry.
What do you think?
I don't know. You did good. I always say it's in the details, right? It's like it could be the night owl, but you're, maybe 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning versus the 12 that you shared. Maybe it wasn't a rock star. Maybe you were some more thing else, and the laundry one I'm wondering though, but that would probably be the truth. Is the almost killed by a rock star the lie?
No.
Oh, okay. That's a story. That you love doing laundry.
No, I love doing laundry.
I knew it.
No, I am embarrassingly to bed early. Like about 8:30. I'm like, oh my God, is it time? Can I go to bed?
Early.
Yeah, and I don't. A lot of times, I'll say to my husband, okay, I'm going back to read. I'm not going to sleep at 9 o'clock. But then a lot of times I also fall asleep. So I get up really early. I wake up just naturally about 5:15 a.m. So I think I have to go to bed early, but I struggle with staying up. So
well, at least you don't have any issues falling asleep, right? Because that would be the worst. Because that's what I suffer with. Is I might say to myself, I'll go to bed at a decent time for me, maybe about 10 o'clock ish. But I don't start that head bobbing of falling asleep until almost like 12 or 1. So I'm like scrolling, scratching off my to-do list. Oh, that's a funny video. So on and so forth. And then I wake up at like 7:30 the next day. So I'm like, oh, yeah. But it makes sense for you if you're going to go to, because you're going to bed so much earlier that you wake up earlier. So it's almost like it evens out. You're just shifting, though, starting the end of it. But, and so how do you almost get killed by a rock star?
So it was about 10 or 12 years ago now. And it was Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. We were in Hawaii on Maui, and we were actually, if anybody listening has seen The White Lotus, we weren't at that hotel that they filmed at, but we were on that beach. And it had just been, like a tropical storm or something. So there were pretty high waves, and we'd seen Steven Tyler all over the place. And it was long enough ago that he was on American Idol and he had just written a autobiography, so you would see him around, but I was out with my husband and a few other people, and we were just like bouncing in the waves, just like hanging out. And he was with some famous surfer, maybe Kelly Slater, I don't know, but he had some sort of like weird, like personal craft that like you could hold on to, and it was motorized. It was like a jet ski, only like you were kind of body surfing on it, and he was just tooling all around. And this big wave came up, and I turned around, and he and this machine were practically on top of me, and I was like, oh fuck. And I like ducked under the waves and like tried to get out of the way, and he almost landed on me with this machine, and he went back to the shore. And I was like, oh my God, my claim to fame is that Steven Tyler almost ran over me. But then he like went to shore, put the thing away, and came back out to apologize and make sure I was okay. And of course, it was so dumb. You think you're going to meet somebody famous and be all like cool and collective. And I was like, oh my God, you smell so good. I love you. It was so embarrassing. But he gave me a hug, and God love my husband. He had the waterproof camera out there. And so I got my picture taken with him, and he sat and talked to my husband for like 45 minutes, just had a normal conversation where I was just like the dumbest fangirl ever. But yeah, now we have this funny picture with me looking really goofy with Steven Tyler giving me a big hug. So
wow,
worth it.
Yeah, Could have been worse for sure. Because I was waiting for him to like, okay, is he going to be an asshole? But he was, redeemable, like some of the heroes, right?
He was
Mm-hmm.
so, he was so nice. And again, for somebody who's quite a bit, I mean, I was like, gosh, you actually smell like a rock star. Like he smelled really good.
Ah, okay.
Like some sort of expensive cologne and sex or so. I mean, it was a whole moment. So
Have you ever thought
very,
about doing that scene as far as like in one of your books?
you know what? I haven't, but now that you say it, I might, because it was a very meet cute type of scene.
Right?
If
Yeah.
if I
Just
wasn't
have your
standing there with my
husband,
husband.
swap it, be one of your BFFs.
Exactly. Exactly. I might do that. So, and then laundry,
Yes,
because you
laundry.
mentioned laundry.
I
I
know.
like laundry start to finish.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I do not like any other household chores, none, which in my house reflects that. But we always have clean laundry because there's something very, like it's a task you can, like, I feel like, if I mop the floor, which I rarely do, then my animals will just, like, the dogs come running in with mud on their paws. But for some reason, and I know laundry, like, you just keep getting more, but it's so satisfying to me, start to finish, like, okay, towels, and now they're done, and now they're put away, and it's
Yes.
something that just is good for me. So
Yeah.
I do like doing, I mean, I think my kids, because I don't really do a lot of other, you know, kind house cleaning stuff for them. But I'm like, hey, does anybody need help with their laundry when they're teenagers? Because
Well,
I like doing it.
yeah, I mean, I can relate to that whole repetitive type of task, right? Because you grab, you fold, you put away for a second, you grab, you fold, and then then you put the pile away. That whole thing with the mopping is the vein of my existence because you do all that work and you're done and you're having that moment where you just look at the floor and it's gorgeous and it's shimmering, and then the dog walks through it. Or
Yes.
someone forgets or decides to not just fucking do it, wipe their feet outside, and now they're tracking
Right.
everything in, and you're going, all that time is wasted, and you did this
Right.
for nothing.
Right. That's
Whereas
how I feel
love,
like with kitchen counters. Like, you wipe
yes,
them down, and then somebody, I'm like, do we live in a damn barn here? Like,
mm-hmm.
how can you people, like, are you eating from a trough? Like, how do you
Yes,
get stuff all over the place every time?
yeah.
So,
How many pots and plates do you need to cook the one fucking meal?
right.
Yeah. No, yeah, I can.
Exactly.
But then when you're taking you're out of the shower, you're going in there, and you don't have to um figure out where the undies are or have to figure out where that favorite shirt is because it's where it's supposed to be.
Yes, you have some. And I will say, I do now, in the past couple years, I've developed some, sort of some chronic, like, issues from sitting at my desk for so
Mm-hmm.
long. And so I do a hybrid of typing and dictating words. And so I will do a ton of laundry, throw it all on the bed, and then do a big dictation session, just
Mm.
folding laundry, because it is so mindless that
Yes.
I can just, sort of lose myself in the story. But at the end of my sprint, I've got 1,000
Accomplished.
words and I've got folded laundry. So
Yes. It's definitely a task where you can kind of like lose and it's okay to space out in that other task of dictating. Driving,
yes,
for an example, would not be one of those tasks. But yeah, the satisfaction of the laundry, I think it's of all that it's one of my favorite too, as far as that whole like folding thing. Not that I love doing laundry like you do, but if I had to choose.
right. Yes. On the wheel of hell, house chores,
Yes.
laundry is
Yeah.
the
Because I mean,
purgatory.
from my perspective too, like I fixed our pantry so many fucking times that you can grab anything, you can see everything. And then you open it. I mean, that was like, and it takes hours, folks, hours to organize something like that. And the next day, something's not where it's supposed to be. You can't
Right.
find the one thing. And you're like, I'm
Or
done.
the bane of my existence, you go to get the one thing,
Yes.
and instead you find an empty box where that one
Yes.
thing is, and you're like, oh my God. How
Yes.
hard is it to take the box out and throw it in recycling? So,
Oh, yeah. That would be, yeah, we could probably do an entire episode.
right. That's
You
a
know,
different podcast.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Right. One of those like romance authors and readers. One of the
Yes.
many things in common.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So if any readers are out there and you are coming to Readers Take Denver
Mhm.
and you feel like you're not sure what to say to an author, just come up to me and we will talk housework and books too.
Yeah.
So
It is one of the reasons why I love doing these kind of episodes where I connect with the events, and because it's, you were talking about it before, it could be very nerving, and people that have anxieties or imposter syndrome, and just going up to a complete stranger and saying hi. And then on the opposite scale for you guys, having to be on and promoting and pimping your book and hoping that someone buys it, just instead of any of that, is like, so you're the one that likes to do laundry.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, yes. I mean, I love when people
Yes.
buy my book. However, I also like to just connect with people. It's a fun, I don't get to do that very much here in my house. So, I mean, I'm connecting with my cats and dogs, and that's it. So,
no, yeah. And again, with all these other events that we're having at it, I mean, during the martini party or during one of the DJ parties. So do you fold the jeans up in front or underneath? Because
I think I'm an overfolder, like the toilet paper, like it has to go over. So,
okay. Yeah. Understood. Yeah. And then, yeah, there's some, again, completely, totally new episode. We might have to do one of those later on in life.
there you go.
So with being a writer, you're constantly surrounded by the words that are in your head, that are in front of you, the ones that you're dictating. Do you have a favorite word? Separate part of the question about the curse word, so it's different.
Um, my and I don't know that I even use this very often in my writing, but I think just a fun word to say is serendipity.
That is a fun word.
And it has a great meaning too,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. So that would be one of my favorite words is serendipity or
Mm-hmm.
serendipitous. It's just,
Yes.
it sounds so happy.
It does. It sounds happy, but at the same time, there's like that meaning behind it. It's very, yes, that's a good word. All right. So what's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Even how she said it. Did you listen to that, folks?
And I do not, and it's just, I've written for a couple different publishers, and I have books, that range in sweetness and in explicitness, and in the books that I'm writing currently, I don't cuss a lot in the books, which is interesting for me because I cuss like a sailor in my real life. So I feel like it has forced me to become more creative in how I express emotion. But yeah, it's probably a problem how much I use that word in my real life. So,
well, this entire episode, you have not said nothing has like curse word wise come out of your mouth. So I was wondering, I'm like, you're one of those authors that can really write it down on paper but does not speak it. And now you're sharing that you are
I'm more the opposite, where
yeah.
I speak it a lot more than I write it. So
yeah, but that is definitely a good fuck is definitely a good word. And
I mean, I think there are just some times where nothing else will do. So
and it's such versatile, right? Good,
yes.
bad scenarios. It could be a complete sentence on all its own.
Yes.
Behind so many good meanings.
And this is a hugely embarrassing reveal for me, but I give my two dogs voices. We do voices for our dogs where they kind of speak back to us, and it my husband's like, you are a nut, but I'm like, you like it makes you laugh the whole time. And both of my dogs cuss like sailors too. So
oh my goodness. Okay, don't feel bad or weird or anything like that. A lot of us do that.
Okay.
And me, myself included. Nico is a pit mix, but he also has a bit of like, he stands up really straight. So you would think maybe British, but no, because of the pit mix, and I named him after one of the characters in Adrian Laura's books, and he is a vampire, but the the weapons expert, and he likes to make things go boom, and also Russian. So when I'm looking at Nico and he's looking at me, I'm like, do you hear what I'm talking about?
I love that.
Yes. And Darcy, who's one of our cats, is a girl, and so for her, while again she may have that prim and properness, but she's the first one to roll over on her stuff, on her back, and like, pet me, girl me, let's
right.
So yeah, so you're not the only one that does it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
That would definitely be a fun, reel though. I would love to see what your dogs sound like in your head. Take a vid, show me our readers. But a lot of people I know do it. So yeah, no shame in that. It's fun, it's always interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
You give them they become our furry family. So
yeah, no, absolutely. So before we go, can you tell us what you're currently working on and what's coming up next for you?
I would love to. I am currently working on the Christmas release for 2023. So it is called The Christmas Cabin, and it is a second chance story set at an old summer camp that's about to be torn down. And the hero is the guy tearing it down, and his first love comes back, and she makes a play to save it. So that will be out at the end of November. And it's kind of weird to be writing Christmas after Christmas, but I do keep up a little Christmas tree in my office. And it's so wintry in Colorado that it is kind of giving me the Christmas vibes. And my next release is The Front Porch Club, which is a very beachy read and comes out at the end of May, also set in Magnolia, North Carolina.
Nice. Yeah, it's always interesting that you guys are writing sometimes so far in advance. You're already, Christmas basically was just like a few months, like what, 2 months ago, not even. Some
Right.
people still have their Christmas trees up, like my next door neighbor. But it's just such a fun holiday. But now you're writing it for this year. You're going, okay, you kind of have to be festive. And yeah, so those two are going to be fun books. I always love it when the hero is meant to tear something down and the heroine is meant to save it.
Yes, and they were married when they were very young and got divorced, and so they haven't seen each other in a while. And she has a daughter. I think readers will enjoy it. It'll be fun and a lot of cute. I do love writing holiday romance because I think it just lends itself to so many, cute little traditions and scenes, but also all the kind of emotions, and you believe in the magic of Christmas. So it's fun.
Yeah. And when those characters they've had a previous relationship or they've been married and now, things happen and now they're reconnecting, having them kind of have some of those like, secrets amongst themselves, right? Or, like, oh, are you still doing that?
Right.
People can totally relate to that. It's always cute. And sometimes those that's are adorable and other things are not so adorable.
Very true.
Very
true.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and hang out. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I've loved chatting with you and getting to know you a little more.
Thanks. If you're not following Michelle on social media, I will be including all of her links, including websites and newsletter and all that fun stuff for you guys over at the landing page of this episode at Viviana Enchantress of Books, so you guys don't have to go hunting for it. And everyone, thanks for listening. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Dawn Darch, Michelle Bastard, Brandy Schmidt, April Branson. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.